The Cleveland Browns have a ton of veteran linebackers that are proven, and some of them are playmakers. But are they healthy enough to even get on the field? We'll talk about that coming up on this episode of the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Also from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, on-air personality, 92.3 The Fan, Mr. Garrett Bush, at GBush91. We appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. YouTube, make sure you subscribe, notifications on. The growth over there has been tremendous. And again, look, we sit here, we do this. We can't pull people in. We can't subscribe for you. The fact that you all come in droves, we do appreciate it. Also available, of course, wherever you get your podcasts, audio-wise, always available, always free. A lot to get to here today as we continue through the week. G. Bush, Mr. Barkeep, sir, what is on tap tonight?
On tap, we got a great show for you guys coming up. We will definitely get into some more of your fan mail questions. We have an overpouring of those questions on Twitter. We'll answer some of your questions concerning Deshaun Watson, and is he really going to be the leader of this team? We'll get to that. Also, draft. We talk about linebackers. We got a draft profile ready for you guys as well. An exciting young guy that reminds me a little bit of JOK coming out of Clemson. We'll profile him and show you what he's talking about. He was in the building with the Cleveland Browns. We'll let you know who that was. And then, but first, Jeff, let's get to our linebackers. Our linebackers have experience. They got the ability to make plays, but one thing that they do not have is health right now. Take a look at what's going on with the Cleveland Browns in their health. And just really quickly here, just to show you how many people are on the men's. Anthony Walker had the torn quad. Sione Takitaki, torn ACL. Jacob Phillips, torn bicep. JOK ended the year on injured reserve as well with a foot injury. Now, this right now, what you have constituted, that is your entire playbook. That's your middle linebacker. That's your Sam backer. That's your will backer. And these are young guys and mixed with old guys. So pretty much right now, the Browns have not made any moves free agency to go bolster anybody outside of the room. You take a look at what they did do. They did bring Anthony Walker back. Congratulations. We needed him to come on back. Sione Takitaki, they signed him back as well. He was playing well at the Mike linebacker after Anthony Walker went down. Jacob Phillips was in that position a little bit as well. He ended up with the torn bicep, and JOK in his foot game, he's fast, but he's been injured a lot as well. When you look at this linebacker core, is this like something that you are worried about? Especially given the fact that these guys are going to have to play for you if they don't draft someone, which we'll talk about in the next segment.
This is where it did get a little bit crazy, did get a little bit hairy. You brought everybody back, and everybody wants to kind of like read the tea leaves, and this is what Andrew Berry, and this is the way they've handled things, and da. And the linebacker room, it kind of seemed like this is the way it was going to go. These guys are all cap friendly players, of course. But there's like OTAs like next week. And granted, it's a very, very soft version of OTAs, and you really don't do anything other than a walkthrough. But are there going to be any linebackers there? Like, are there going to be any of them? JOK, obviously, he should be good to go.
He should be all right.
Jacob Phillips, look, torn bicep, tore the pec, the season before. Those are crazy freak injuries, and it's tough. Sione Takitaki, obviously torn ACL. I don't even know if, what we can get a Sione, even if anything in the summer. Maybe it's late September, maybe it's October. Anthony Walker, that's the one thing that's kind of been hush-hush here is, yeah, he resigned. Yeah, he came back, and nobody has, a status or an update as to where he is on his injury. So it certainly makes, I don't know if everybody's ready to go out and see Jordan Kunizek, the other, guy brought in to, be a special teams linebacker, and then feels as your starting linebacker week 1. And hopefully, the water will get clearer on this, as we get further and further down the road. But yeah, right now, it's a very, very light room as far as availability. Anthony Walker, I'll be honest, torn quad. I don't know exactly what the recovery time is for that. Torn ACL. We've all been around it 9, 12 months, as far as when you'll be able to go, as far as when you should start to be, what is considered full speed. Jacob Phillips, probably, I would say probably close. JOK, probably close. And we're going to see the progression here, this year, probably with somebody brought in because, and we'll get to this in segment 2, when you're talking to the top linebacker in the class, you're obviously going to draft a linebacker. You just don't make those visits for no reason whatsoever. But it's certainly been, it's certainly a murky room right now, if we were to describe it.
Yeah, look, listen, I'll go and we'll get into some of the minutia here. The other linebacker that you have right now who is available, you have Story Jackson. If you don't know who he is, he's 25. He was a free agent.
You missed a great opportunity there to say if you don't know his story, but go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't know his story, like he got waived by the Cowboys, so he's on. And you mentioned Jordan Kuznick, but this guy, he's the special teams guy. That's what he brings to the table. I'm not looking for him to be filling in any positions anytime soon. And you mentioned this as well. The guy who looks like they may have an opportunity is Fields. Fields is going to be Tony Fields is going to be pretty much the only healthy linebacker.
The same game Sione Takitaki went down in Houston was like the Tony Fields coming out party.
Yep. He had a really nice game that game too. He had a lot of tackles that game. He played a really nice game.
Scored a touchdown, tossed it to his old man. Yep.
It worked. But I guess what let me ask you this question. I think maybe it may be a situation, Jeff, where do you think they're saying, okay, look, these guys are smart. Let's get them some work in the film room. Give them the playbook. As long as we can get them through camp, bandaged up, no major injuries, are they hoping for the best? That they just basically are saying they know how to play football, they'll be fine, they'll be behind an improved defensive front, and you just hope to get them to the finish line to start the season, and maybe you get guys back healthy?
Maybe, and I kind of agree with you there, but also what I kind of agree is maybe, with Jim Schwartz's defense isn't the easiest thing in the world for a young guy to navigate. So maybe that could be part of it too. Anthony Walker, Anthony Walker, and look, he's been a productive player. He's been a good player in the NFL, but everybody talks about his, intellect for the game. Sione Takitaki, look, he's been moved around, but wherever he goes, he seems to get the job done. Jacob Phillips, who knows? And look, Jacob Phillips, if they draft a linebacker, and again, I don't want to, jump to, another segment here, but Jacob Phillips could be in a spot where, it could be him versus said rookie linebacker. And if you're resetting the clock and you're saying, well, benefit of the doubt, one guy, this is his last year here contract wise, the other guy, we're resetting the clock with the pick here, cheaper, giving him the opportunity, it becomes a difficult situation all the way around. So that's one thing that kind of resonates to me when you just brought this point up is that maybe Jim Schwartz feels he'd rather just have guys, and it's not a talent thing. It's more of a guys who understand NFL life. And maybe that's something that works a little better for a Jim Schwartz defense, which could certainly be true. Cause maybe he doesn't want to start holding hands right now with the expectations that this Cleveland Browns team has.
Yeah. That may be a thing as well. To me, I think they do have to look at a linebacker, which kind of segues us to a point where we could kind of take a look at a couple of linebackers that potentially could be in play with the Cleveland Browns. And they met with a guy, and I will let you know who that is coming up here in just one moment.
Yeah, we're going to continue here. And look, we're going to start sneaking in these draft previews here, and draft profiles here. And again, look, you start poking around and you want to sit down and have a top 30 visit with the top linebacker in the draft considered by most, is certainly, sheds some light, or at least tells me that, you're very interested in bringing in a young linebacker. Jeff Lloyd Carrot-Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. The NBA playoffs is almost here. Cavs fans, I know you're excited. And now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app right now. And it's simple, it's safe, it's simple and easy to use. Trust me, you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and 3-pointers drained. For me, one of the things that's most appealing about this, and look, if you're not a big bettor, I get it, I understand, but want to know what? You sit down, you watch your local team every single night. So I've got the perfect thing for you, a in-game parlay. So what you're going to do, same game parlay, you're going to go ahead. You're going to pick your favorite team. You're going to pick 3, 4, maybe 5 bets that look a little small. The odds are low, but you're putting down $5, $10. So who cares? Guess what? If it pans out, you're cashing out. If it doesn't pan out, it was $5, $10. You spend it at Starbucks every day. We all know that. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And welcome back to the Locked On Brown podcast. Thank you guys for making the Locked On Brown podcast your first listen of each and every day. Jeff, we talking linebackers today. The Cleveland Browns went out and they did bring in and they visited with Trenton Simpson, who is a linebacker out of Clemson. And this guy, he pops. He really jumps off the screen. We talked about the injury levels. Is this something that the Browns could do? Remember, traded up with JOK in the second round, looking for that type of energy and athleticism. Also, when you look at the measurables and you take a look at his analysis from Pro Football Focus, look at the numbers. Here's where it may be something where we already have JOK and we kind of understand about this a little bit. 59.6 as in 2020, goes up to a 73.2, right? Plays more games, 13 games. And then you get to 2022 and he's at about a 69. So he dropped down a little bit. And one of the reasons that is kind of difficult for some guys who are a little undersized, or guys that still need some polish and some work on read and recognition, look at the snaps. 622 snaps. As the snaps increase, there's more room for opportunity for you to do, miss tackles. Maybe you miss a couple of plays. Look at his pass rush snaps. Those went up a little bit as well. So the thought process is, here's a guy who has some athleticism, ran a 4.43, 6'2", 235, and the guy has some wiggle. He has some burst. And then you take a look at his draft profile. 5-star recruit 2020, prototypical linebacker size, flexibility, fluid. He really burst on the scene. 52 tackles, 31 pressures, 7 sacks that year, which earned an 87.1 pass rush grade. His pros, high-end athlete, willing and able blitzer, no hesitation in contact, impressive, physical traits, very low body fat. Here's the cons. Struggles to see both the receivers and the football, and a lot of late breaks in coverage because of it. Limited experience between the tackles, only 1 year as a starter, lack of plays on the football, no career picks, and 2 career pass breakups. So, Jeff, you're worried about the ball skills a little bit, and some of the things JOK struggles with, he struggles with as well. Is that something you're worried with? Or do you think, hey, bring in a guy, give me the traits, I'll give you Schwartz, and he'll coach him up? Your thoughts on this prospect and where the Browns are looking?
One thing that kind of just sticks out to me when you look at what he did in his time down in Clemson is 13 sacks. You look at 6'2" and change, 235, 13 sacks. And I'm not going to throw out an overall player comparison, but the Browns brought in Deion Jones last year. And when did Deion Jones look good? As a blitzer, as a guy who said, you know what, there's nothing around me, I'm going to go attack the quarterback right now. Also, another thing is, 1 year as a starter. So you think there is potential there. And, everybody talks about Anthony Walker and his propensity and his knowledge for the game. So are you maybe trying to find somebody with a fantastic athletic profile, relative athletic score, I think it's 9.3 and change, as you mentioned, the 4.43 40. The jumps were good. So are you looking for Anthony Walker to basically take this, mind that he has for the game and maybe bestow it upon somebody who has a better athletic profile? And are you trying to groom that guy down the road? And look, the footage you played, I mean, seek and destroy. That is always what I was taught about the linebacker position. Find it, go blow it up. And you see that in obviously the one clip you played, you certainly see that the tackle numbers obviously rose over his years. As far as, him not, grading out his final year at Clemson as a whole, look, they had a hell of a run, like a decade-long run of being, between, Boyd, Deshaun Watson to Lawrence, and they've always been this dominant program. Eventually, you get knocked off the shelf a little bit, and obviously that was the case for Clemson this past year. But this guy, with the profile he has, the ability he has, and I think for the biggest thing for the Browns is anything he does this year would be gravy. It truly would, because you brought all these guys back. You look at him, he looks like a safety. I mean, just physically looking at him, he looks like Grant Delpit, and probably similar in size.
And the crazy, you think about this. Can you imagine, and this is kind of some of the thinking that I'm looking at it. Can you imagine on your nickel packages, this guy in JOK as your backers?
And they run just as fast as your secondary.
These guys, you could spy quarterbacks that ran. They could get to their drops. Now, obviously, they would need some work in coverage, but just the pure athleticism from your guys running like safeties in the middle of your field on your pass rush downs. And like you said, he has some opportunity and the ability to rush the passer. And I'm telling you what, with that speed, they'll get there in a hurry.
Oh, no question. I mean, and you talk about Simpson, JOK, Delpit, of course, Juan Thornhill. Then you throw in the cornerbacks. And look, if you can get this defensive line right, you've got the chase athleticism guys and so many times, and gee, you know it, I know it, and we've lamented about it so many times. He caught a 4-yard pass on 3rd and 9 and nobody tackled him, and they moved the sticks. Get more. If you can get your D line right, you want the most athletic, the fastest running guys you possibly can to be chasing this stuff down. And you want that perfect harmony, that perfect marriage of both of these things. Look, Trenton Simpson, and look, I don't want to get you all excited because I'm not sure how the Browns get to Trenton Simpson. And this is what made this sit down and top 30 visit a little interesting, because obviously when you start doing this, you've got eyes on maybe trading up. If you're talking to him, you're talking to Jalen Hyatt, the wide receiver out of Tennessee, it maybe says the Browns maybe aren't that content at being at 74, and they're pinpointing guys they would trade up for. He would fit the bill. But again, what I'm trying to tell you all from here is, if you have eyes and you want to get to know the best linebacker in the class better, it's not because you just want to meet Trenton Simpson.
Right.
It's obviously because you think you're going to draft a linebacker, so you're getting that ball rolling. It's Garrett Bush. It's Jeff Lloyd. It's your latest Locked On Browns. We've gotten a bunch of stuff here to this point. We got some great questions from you listeners. And look, for all your Browns content, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Browns. Notifications on wherever you get your audio podcast. We are always available and we are always free.
Thank you so much. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow Locked On Browns on Twitter as well. And then make sure you hit the notification bell over at YouTube so you can get all of our content and never miss anything we drop. You know, we talk about Deshaun Watson a little bit here, Jeff. Have a really great question from someone in the someone who sent their information in. If you do want to see your questions on the show, make sure you tweet at GBush91, at Jeff Lloyd. We'll make sure we read your information. We'll make sure we answer your questions. We love interaction on the show. Obviously, we do this for you guys, so we want to get your questions in as well. Let's take a look at the first question. Jeff, Chris Jordan says, was just curious, do you think Kevin Stefanski and the Browns will make Deshaun Watson the team captain with the C badge on his jersey this year? And as always, thank you so much, Chris. You get the customary. Thank you for making our show grow. There we go. You know, we don't want to loop it. You don't want to do it twice, G. Bush. Don't loop it, right? Here we go.
I thought you were getting a phone call. I had no idea what was going on.
But Chris, Jeff, your thoughts on Kevin Stefanski? I think the team votes on it. Does the team not vote on captains, or how does that work? I don't know how the Browns do it.
Look, let's be honest. Too soon. You know, and I think Deshaun kind of understands this. You know, and even look, it's not a knock on the way he's viewed. It's not a knock on the way his teammates feel about him. But, you know, you're still trying to let all that backlash settle. So it's probably not going to be that. And the Browns do have the distinct advantage on the offensive side of the ball of, well, Joe Bitonio's been here forever. Nick Chubb is the standard. So we don't necessarily have to get in these conversations. The Browns, when they, when the Browns make the playoffs in 2023 and have a pretty good run in 2024, yeah, it's a lot more comfortable to maybe put that C on his chest. But I don't think the Browns are ready to do that just now.
Here's what I'll say. I'll say, generally speaking,
it does feel weird, because your quarterback should wear the C. And
I mean, generally speaking, the quarterback just is what it is. Even when you get guys that go to another program, right? So say, for instance, you get a Matt Ryan that goes in it, I'm automatically the captain because I've been here. You know what it is. Here's what I will say. I think there is a chance, an outside chance that he could. It depends on how he acclimates himself in the offseason. Last year, he came in the middle of the season. You know, when you come in the middle of the season and you haven't really proved yourself to your teammates, it's kind of difficult to kind of say, let me go ahead and be the captain of the ship. So for me, if he comes in this offseason, he gets the guys together, he works out, the team will tell you whether or not they're ready to have him as a captain or not. They'll let you know, your soldiers will let you know. When you look at the offensive side of the ball, Joe Bitonio, who's a borderline going to be a guy I think could be up for a Hall of Fame. You got Nick Chubb, who is the captain on that side. Myles Garrett is the captain on the defensive side. And usually, generally speaking, they have a special teams guy that may be a captain, or they may have another guy. So if they go with 4 captains and he does a good job of just being in there, his teammates might put him up for it. But to be truthful, I think Deshaun would take a lot of other things like a new playbook, receivers being healthy, guys catching the ball, and just having a really good offseason over having the captain's mark. So
you got to be Elijah Moore. I don't need to see on my chest.
Listen, give me the receivers. I don't need no C's. I'm okay with that. Let's go to another one. My man, Gio, he always hits us up, man. So thank you, Gio.
Giovanni Raviz has been plugging content for Locked On Browns for probably about 4 or 5 years now.
He should be on the payroll, right?
You might have to drop a little, a little cash app that way. But Gio, you always would appreciate it.
This is an interesting question. And we'll kind of unpack it a little bit. What is your opinion on the age guardrails? There is a definite proof Barry drafts young. Should they be followed strictly or loosened, considering we don't pick up until 74? And since COVID, players are leaving older. Thanks. I will say this. We kind of talked about a draft profile. We looked at it in terms of the linebacker position. I think that in this draft, I think Andrew Berry is looking specifically. He likes young players at certain positions, running back. He likes young guys. You need to get a little younger at linebacker. And if you look at it, they haven't even really invested that much in terms of wide receiver as young guys like high. They got 2 third-round picks with Bell and Schwartz. So they haven't really invested in that second round range, but I definitely feel like they have guardrails on age requirements at certain positions. We talked about this a little bit with Jerome Ford and the running back mock we did the other day, Jeff.
The thing here is, and this is where it gets kind of like a slippery slope. Like we've talked, like Andrew Berry is one GM that tries to get to the draft and say, you want to know what? I don't want to have to draft starters. So the age guardrails kind of ties up into that where you're saying, look, I'm taking players I'm trying to groom for down the line. So which means, obviously, you want them as young as possible. DeAnthony Bell was not drafted last year. He was an undrafted free agent. But at the time, he was knocking on the door at 25 years old. There's a role for those type of guys. But you're trying to go, I don't want to say diamonds in the rough, but you wanted to say, this guy that I'm going to draft at 74, and we'll use that for the example this year, he's got a great athletic upside. He didn't start until midway through his sophomore year and started his junior year. Like, you want to find guys who are on the rise. Gio, your point here, it cannot be, ignored. With the way it's working right now, and it's going to take 2 or 3 years before it levels off, is we've got a lot of guys becoming draft eligible. And see, man, some of these dudes are married with kids already. Yeah. Because, and look, and good for the NCAA, good for the universities, and saying, look, man, you kids were all put in a terrible position. So, number one, let's make sure you walk out of these schools with your paper and your degree. But let's also give you a chance to maybe get back what you missed, which was, Saturday nights on the gridiron with these schools that you fell in love with that gave you the opportunity to come here. I think the bigger hurdle here for the Browns this year is how many of these picks do they want to make?
I think you bring up a point. Hendon Hooker is a guy that comes to mind. Yep. Hendon Hooker is a guy. And
Hooker is like 4 months younger than Lamar Jackson.
He's 25 years old now, right? And he's coming off of ACL. So that means with 25, you're probably going to redshirt him a year here. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes because he's going to be a 26-year-old quarterback by the time he even plays. So to put that in perspective, he's like the same age as Deshaun Watson.
It's not big of a difference now.
So you brought up a great point. These guys are coming out, they're older. And here's the thing. If you can get a guy and you feel like he's pro ready, I don't mind the age so much, right? If you feel us at a position and he's ready to go, I don't mind the age.
If it was a punter, if it was a quarterback, it don't matter. Because look, if it's 5 years and you got him from 26 to 31, nobody would care. If it was your kicker and he was good, if it was your punter, it was good.
Yep.
But we're talking about all of these guys being a rotational defensive lineman, a rotational linebacker. So you know what? Grab me the most athletic, youngest kid who's got some good tape. But again, these teams are going to be pigeonholed. There's older guys, and if they're good, and it comes down to, I need this guy to help my team win, you got to take that gamble.
Yep, got to.
Especially if you're a team that has playoff aspirations. You're the Houston Texans. Say, you want to know what? Here's the thing. 21 years old in 3 months. Don't put them on my board if they're older than that.
Yeah.
Because you know what? We're a couple years away. So I want to see where these kids get to and where they get. But for the Browns, like if you think the guy could be a difference maker, the age factor should not be a difference. And look, the Browns have shown heavy interest in a wide receiver named Tank Dell out of Houston.
And he
Tank
could
Dell
move.
is going to be 24 in October. He will be by far the oldest player the Browns have drafted. So they met with him in the Senior Bowl. They had him in for an official visit. They spent time with him at the combine. They seem extremely interested. So as far as the guardrails, Tank Dell is the one that's going to go poof, and blow it all up because he does not fit even close into the guardrail. So we'll see the way that plays out. Look, it's always a blast. We get to a ton, and the time just seems to just absolutely blow by. But right now, the Browns linebacker room, I think we got a nurse on staff. I think there's an on-call doctor.
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot with the linebacker room that needs to be done before, hopefully July, hopefully before August. And I pray to God by September. Trenton Simpson, in most people's opinion, the top linebacker in the class. Browns have had him in for a top 30 visit. And listener questions, look, you guys make this what it is. So to be able to accommodate you guys as much as we can, that's just part of the gig. But it's also, keeping up with the folks, man. You're here for us. We're going to be here for you. He is Garrett Bush at GBush91, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, Monday through Friday, live on YouTube, on-air personality, the barbershop, open. Look, it's spring. It's warm. Get that hair cleaned up. Get your fade all cropped up so you're ready for the weekend. Check out the barbershop every Saturday at 92.3 The Fan. I am Jeff Lloyd at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. The show at Locked On Browns. Follow back account. Always available. Always free on your favorite podcast platform. YouTube, make sure you're subscribed, notifications on, throw some likes on the episode for your boys here as we're busting our butts for you guys every day. Locked On NFL scouting, Kyle Krabs. You heard a little bit of Joe Marino yesterday. These guys are literally this is like a soup to nuts show. They handle NFL franchises from every way possible, whether it is the draft, whether it is, contract signings, extending players, acquiring players. Joe, Kyle, they do a fantastic job. Always make sure you make that your second listen every single day. But, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go, Browns.